What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Leo coming to you guys with yet another video, coming to you guys today with another reaction. We've been recently checking out the worst matches of WWE in previous years. We checked out worst matches of 2014, and we checked out recently worst WWE matches of 2015, and now we're on to WWE matches of 2016. 2016 has been seen as more of like a renaissance era for the WWE, considering a lot of the moments that we did get in 2016. We got the debut of AJ Styles and him pretty much having an amazing year, an amazing rookie year, going up against Roman Reigns, John Cena, and winning the WWE Championship against Dean Ambrose at Backlash that year. And we also got some other great things. We got the draft to come back. We got to see the Universal Champion Kevin Owens win the Universal Championship. We got to see somewhat of the rise of what could have been the rise of Finn Balor on the main roster. We got to see some amazing things, and we got to see the women and the women start to take off for sure. And it was a really good year, but at the same time, there have been some very bad matches throughout the year. One of the matches that does come to mind had a lot of hype around it, and that was Dean Ambrose versus Brock Lesnar. I think a lot of people was clamoring to see this match. People were happy to see this match. The build-up was good, but the match just was executed very poorly. But we're going to see what Cultaholic deems worst WWE matches of 2016.
2016 was a very big year for the very big dub. It saw the arrival of talent like AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura, the Cruiserweight Classic was held, the brand split came back, and Zack Ryder was IC champion for all of 24 hours. Honestly, it was a year of fantastic wrestling from performers like Styles, Dean Ambrose, Kevin Owens, Sasha Banks, and basically everyone in NXT. However, it was also a year heavily centered around the mega push of Roman Reigns, and at this stage of his career, it wasn't a good sign. This list doesn't really have a lot of bad wrestling on it. The in-ring quality of most of these matches is actually pretty decent, but it does feature an absolute ton of stupid, immature, nonsensical booking decisions. Prepare for your intelligence to be thoroughly insulted with this one. I'm Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic Wrestling, and these are the 10 worst WWE matches of 2016. Join us. Number 10, The Undertaker vs. Shane McMahon at WrestleMania 32. Okay, yes.
Yeah, this wasn't a good match either. I mean, on paper, it looked like it had a little bit of promise to be something interesting, but it just fell flat, I felt like.
Shane's leap off the cell was an incredible WrestleMania moment. That's why this match is only at number 10 on this list, but if we dive away and look at everything else, it really doesn't have much going for it.
Nope.
After 9 years away from the business, Shane O'Mac was Shane O'Back, and he wanted to take control of the Red brand. His dad agreed, but only on the condition that he defeat The Undertaker at WrestleMania, inside Hell in a Cell. The red-hot beginnings of this feud slowly fizzled out as both men's motivations got seriously muddled on the way to WrestleMania. By the time the match rolled around, most of the excitement of Shane's return had worn off. For half an hour, these two middle-aged men plodded around a metal box, stopping very occasionally to hit one another. Everyone remembers this match for Shane's epic dive, but people are quick to forget that the story was...
When he had a lot of these matches for Hell in a Cell, I think that's the main thing people remember. He never really won any of his matches, but some of the spots that he took or would take is the only thing a lot of the fans really remember in the grand scheme of things.
Absolute nonsense. What was in the lockbox? And the action wasn't great either. And to add insult to the injury, Vince decided to give Shane a go at running Raw anyway, even though he lost. For the love of mankind.
Cookie Run Tower of Adventures is officially available on both mobile and PC with Google Play Games. Immerse yourself in a 3D cookie adventure on a larger PC screen with a mouse and keyboard or controller. Download and play with Google Play Games today.
Number 9, TJ Perkins versus the Brian Kendrick.
Yeah, this wasn't good either, and for what they were trying to do, they were trying to get the 205 Live stuff booming. They were trying to get the 205 Live stuff, to garner more fans after coming off of everything that they did throughout the Cruiserweight Clashes, which was really good. Mind you, the concept was cool. Just seeing a lot of different talent that we see in other companies was kind of cool and everything like that. The idea and stuff like that was cool, but this just wasn't it for what I would say a follow-up to something that was really good.
At Clash of Champions. When WWE reintroduced its Cruiserweight division in 2016, hopes were initially very high. It seemed as if the company were finally giving smaller, more athletic wrestlers a chance to shine, and the Cruiserweight Classic provided some of the best matches of the year. Sadly, things went down the toilet as soon as a certain ancient billionaire got involved. I'll give you 3 guesses as to who I mean. As soon as the Cruiserweights moved to Raw, the entire experiment completely fell apart. This can be seen in excruciating detail at Clash of Champions 2016, when defending champion TJ Perkins took on the Brian Kendrick. Both men were excellent workers and had legitimate history with one another that could have told an interesting story. Unfortunately, the only thing the crowd was interested in was seeing how long they could sit on their hands. The match got absolutely zero reaction, making it almost impossible to watch without cringing so hard your eyeballs exploded. The action itself was predictably very good, but watching it play out to absolute silence was nothing short of torture. Maybe if WWE had given people any reason to care about the Cruiserweights on the main roster, things might have been different. Number 8, The Golden Truth versus Breezango at Money in.
Yeah, this was somewhat of a mini feud, and people weren't really caring just because it was just more of like a comedy relief anyway. And the fact that you put it on a pay-per-view, you could have used it to put something else that would have been more beneficial on the show, and you just did this. I don't know. It needs to happen.
In the Bank. Goldust and R-Truth were both veteran wrestlers that had nothing to do in 2016, so WWE decided to put them together in a tag team and have them mill about the undercard for a year. The Golden Truth, as they were known, were a classic odd couple tag team, with many people drawing comparisons to Goldust's run with Booker T in 2002, although with much less success. After initially going on a losing streak, the pair picked up their first victory on the Money in the Bank pre-show against Tyler Breeze and Fandango. Breezango had been tormenting the Golden Truth for weeks and had beaten them up twice in the lead-up to this encounter. So, to get the advantage, Truth and Goldie sabotaged their tanning beds, exposing their skin to deadly radiation just to win a wrestling match on a pre-show. What a bunch of heroes. The match lasted just over 5 minutes and mainly featured Truth and Goldust slapping their opponent's burnt skin, a joke that got less funny every time they did it. In the end, the Golden Truth won this utterly pointless and very stupid match, and the crowd were ecstatic because they didn't have to watch it anymore. Number 7, Rusev versus Big Cass at Roadblock.
This was not even good either. The whole story was, Enzo was pretty much got caught nude by his wife at the time, Lana, and they were turning this angle into a story, and Big Cass was pretty much trying to break things up. He was pretty much like the voice of reason in a way, and he was trying to back up Enzo and pretty much be like the bodyguard, but it didn't work in the sense of it really wasn't his story. It was really the story of Enzo and Rusev. That was the story. Big Cass was not the story. That's the problem with this right here. And the fact that you had Big Cass face Rusev when it should have been Enzo on the show at Roadblock, but that's neither here nor there, and the match just didn't work either.
End of the line. For whatever reason, WWE ran 2 events called Roadblock in 2016, one in March and one in December. We'll get to the March events later in this list, but for now, let's focus on this absolute stinker of a match from the final month of the year. The pre-show for Roadblock End of the Line featured a match between Rusev and Big Cass. Their reason for fighting was that Cass's partner Enzo Enzo Amore had gotten himself into Rusev's crosshairs after making several passes at his wife Lana. Oh, and Enzo and Cass were the baby faces in this storyline because Vince could never go long without booking someone to try and split up Lana and Rusev. The match itself was really dull until the action spilled to the outside, where Enzo once again got in Lana's face. This caused Rusev to attack him, which caused Cass to get distracted, which caused the Bulgarian Brute to win via countouts. Riveting stuff, and a great pre-show sell job for the pay-per-view itself. Number 6, Brock Lesnar versus Randy Orton at Summer.
This match had all the potential in the world, and I remember watching this, and I had a lot of hype just because these are two, like, well, at least for Randy, was one of my favorites of all time, but I couldn't discredit the stuff that Brock Lesnar was doing in the WWE and pretty much being like a complete dominant force, and I was looking forward to this match to see how their styles clash, how would these two legends interact, knowing we haven't really seen these two compete. I think at this time they haven't competed since 2003, so the fact that they were running this back many years later, it was really a breath of fresh air. But however, the match was not good. It was already suplex, and then Randy got an RKO on the table, which kind of changed the tide of the match, and then Brock just went berserk for some reason, and it just started bloodying Randy Orton to the point the match had to be called off. That's how you end this dream match for many. That's how you end this. A stoppage because Brock Lesnar, for some reason, just was upset and has bloodied Randy to the point you had people pissed off at Brock Lesnar. And what you could have done to turn that potential angle into an actual feud and story, and you chose not to. It's crazy to me.
Slam. A divisive one here, as while it was certainly a bold booking decision, at the time it felt utterly confusing and pretty scary. As the first major show of the new brand split era, WWE needed a major match to close out SummerSlam 2016. They opted for a cross-brand dream match, Raw's Brock Lesnar versus SmackDown's Randy Orton. Unfortunately, what began as a dream soon turned into a bloody nightmare, quite literally. After about 10 minutes of the classic Lesnar formula, the Beast became frustrated with the Viper after he kicked out of an F5. Lesnar must have thought he was still in the octagon at the time because he began to unleash an onslaught of shoot elbow strikes on Orton, cutting his forehead deep enough to draw blood. The match was awarded to Brock Lesnar via technical submission, and a dazed Orton required 10 stitches in his head to close the wound. WWE clearly wanted to do something spectacular to close out SummerSlam, but many felt that this was not the way to do it. The decision to let Lesnar cut Orton open for real was not only a reckless one, but it completely drained the energy out of the crowd, who stopped enjoying the match and started becoming very concerned for Randy's safety. Number 5. Brock Lesnar versus Dean Ambrose at WrestleMania 32.
This had to be on the list. This literally is one of the matches that grinds my gears. It really is. If you guys haven't really been following me for quite some time, or haven't really been subscribed for that long, this is one of the matches that grinds my gears, because you have all the potential in the world to make Dean a bigger star, and they failed to capitalize on it. Dean Ambrose was on pretty much having a lot of momentum going into WrestleMania 32, kicking off with his good match that he had against Kevin Owens at Royal Rumble for the Intercontinental Championship in the last man standing match, which was really good. Dragging his whatever was left of him to go to the Royal Rumble, to make it to the final two, where people were clamoring for people to call an audible for Dean Ambrose to become WWE champion. And if that would have happened, he would have made history, because I think there was only one other or two other people that's ever done this. He would have walked out as WWE and IC champion. That would have created a compelling story, because now where does Roman Reigns fit? Will he turn on his brother to go after that championship? And then you could create a compelling story with potentially Roman Reigns either turning heel or at least being the heel for the time being for that particular feud. However, you didn't do that. You gave it to Triple H, And then Dean still was in the mix for that potential world title opportunity when it went to Fastlane, because it was him, Brock Lesnar, and none other than Roman Reigns, which was a good match, and not to say the least. And then you had Ambrose be the one to take the pin because you wanted to keep Brock Lesnar looking strong. It kind of felt like they just put him in there just to take the pin, despite him having a huge crowd reaction. The people were clamoring to see him be the one to face Triple H at WrestleMania instead of Roman. But the WWE wanted to continue to keep pushing him down our throats, despite us not really wanting to cheer him no matter what you did. And then on top of that, you literally put him in the match with Brock Lesnar, which, don't get me wrong, it was still a high-profile match, but the match stunk. And the reason why is because Brock Lesnar was not motivated. He did not want to do anything that Ambrose wanted to do to compel that match to make it better. If Brock Lesnar actually would have done that, it could have potentially turned Ambrose to where he was then to an even bigger star, to where he could have been up there with the likes of Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins, because we all kind of felt like Dean Ambrose was always a step behind Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns when it comes to the success levels, because we know Roman Reigns is a former headliner of WrestleMania. We know the same thing happened for Seth. We know they've won the Royal Rumble. We know Ambrose is the only Shield member that has never won the Royal Rumble and has never headlined a WrestleMania. And it feels like they've had opportunities to capitalize on it, and they chose not to. This would have carried him to a different level in the WWE. Even if he lost, it would have still potentially carried him, just because he had a grueling match and showed that he can go with some of the very best. And they just chose to keep him in the mid-card, and the rest is history.
A man known today as Jon Moxley had gotten wildly popular toward the end of 2015 as Dean Ambrose, with many people backing him to be the new face of the company over Roman Reigns. However, WWE never properly pulled the trigger on the lunatic fringe and stuck him in this train wreck at WrestleMania 32. The idea of Ambrose, a former deathmatch specialist, going toe-to-toe with Brock Lesnar in a no-holds-barred match was mouth-watering on paper. Unfortunately though, wrestling matches aren't fought on paper. As he occasionally does, Lesnar turned up to WrestleMania 32 and went, "Hey, I don't feel like working today." He proceeded to put in a half-assed effort against Ambrose, restricting his offense to German suplexes and going blah in that way that he does. Lesnar eventually won the match, making Dean look like a total chump. This was supposed to be his stipulation, and he was still dominated by Brock for most of the match. Worst of all, WWE had actually spent weeks showing Ambrose collecting various different weapons to use against Brock. Did he use any?
He had all these things that were given to him, like the chainsaw and then the barbed wire bat from Mick Foley, and you know what's crazy? None of them were used. This just shows you, when Brock Lesnar doesn't want to work, he's not going to, and that's the one thing I don't like. The fact that they put him in this match, and I originally think that it wasn't supposed to be Ambrose. I think it was supposed to be Bray Wyatt, because how they were building everything up from the Rumble and stuff like that, and because I think he was taken out because of injury at the time, they couldn't do it, so they slotted to Ambrose, and I wasn't mad at it, but this match just still grinds my gears to this very day, because Ambrose would have been a bigger star if it wasn't for Lesnar.
Any of them in the actual match? Well, it's on this list. What do you think? Number 4, The Miz versus Darren Young at Battleground. For some,
you had Darren Young come back, and they were trying to build him as potentially being a singles competitor and doing something with him, but it still didn't work just because people didn't care.
Unknown reason, Darren Young spent most of his 2016 hanging out with former WWE champion Bob Backlund. Mr. Backlund had decided to become Darren's life coach, taking on the mission of making him great again. Not to be rude, but was Darren Young ever great in the first place? Anyway, the Hall of Famer's teachings seemed to pay off when Young won a battle royal to determine who would face IC champion The Miz at Battleground. Unfortunately, this was as good as it would get for the former primetime player. Lesnar. The bout itself was quite unremarkable at first, but things got really stupid when Backlund and Maurice got into an altercation which drew Miz to the outside. Backlund tried to take his shirt off to confront the A-lister, but it got stuck on his suspenders, making it look like he was wearing a giant bib. Then Young attacked Miz and the match was called off due to a double disqualification. You know a match is bad when the highlight is a 67-year-old man struggling to get his clothes off.
With Fast Signs, see the visual possibility in your business. See it in life.
3. Brock Lesnar versus the Wyatt family at Roadblock.
Yeah, it was supposed to be Brock versus Bray, I believe, but then it ended up being, well, no, it was supposed to be Brock versus both Bray and Luke, and it just ended up being a one-on-one match where Luke was facing Brock Lesnar one-on-one. The match just wasn't it. It was just pretty much a glorified squash match for Brock Lesnar on this way to WrestleMania anyways. But that's neither here nor there. But RIP Bray Wyatt and RIP Luke Harper.
March's Roadblock event was sold on 2 major matches, Dean Ambrose versus Triple H for the WWE Championship and Brock Lesnar versus Bray Wyatt. The Eater of Worlds had cost Lesnar the Rumble match earlier in the year, and the Beast was out for vengeance. Most people expected this to be Lesnar's WrestleMania match, so eyebrows were raised when the two were booked to square off at Roadblock instead. Eyebrows continued to be raised when the match went from Brock versus Bray one-on-one to a 2-on-1 handicap match pitting Wyatt and Luke Harper against Lesnar. In reality, it was more of a Lesnar-Harper singles match, as Bray did absolutely nothing but watch Harper get picked apart by the former UFC champ. All of this went down because Bray was dealing with an injury. WWE basically had their backs against the wall, but surely they could come up with something better than this needless squash. 2. Dean Ambrose versus Chris Jericho at Extreme Rules. Before they were
Yeah. That Ambrose Asylum match did nothing for either. The only thing people remember is Ambrose putting Jericho through those tacks, those 69 tacks. And that's it. And then winning. That's it.
Feuding over the AEW World Championship in 2020, Dean Ambrose and Chris Jericho locked horns in WWE over a potted plant. No, really, it had a name and everything. It was called Mitch. The two men had been feuding off the back of Ambrose's loss to Lesnar at WrestleMania. After beating him at Payback, Dean challenged Chris to a match of his own creation at Extreme Rules, the Ambrose Asylum match. The two foes did battle in a steel cage full of weapons, and if you think that sounds awesome, stop thinking that, because it wasn't. It took far too long for somebody to climb the cage, which slowed the match to a snail's pace. Also, the weapons available to each man were hardly the most threatening. A fire extinguisher? A mop? Mitch? Give me a break. Despite a grisly thumbtack spot during the finish, which was excellent, the Asylum match was unfortunately a flop. Both men moved on from it very quickly afterwards, and the concept was retired immediately, never to be heard of again. 1. Roman Reigns versus Triple H at WrestleMania 32.
Yeah, this match has to be number 1, because nobody wanted this match. Nobody wanted to see Roman Reigns in the main event of WrestleMania again. Nobody wanted to see Roman Reigns going after the title anymore. Like, people were done. They were over with it. People didn't want Triple H as the WWE champion on this time, even though the idea of it was cool. But we knew what WWE was gonna do. We knew they were gonna have this Roman Reigns go up against the insurmountable odds of the Authority to go up for the championship. And the only thing people really remember that from this match was pretty much Roman Reigns bumping, knocking Triple H, and Triple H bumping into Stephanie to go through a table, I believe, or something like that. That's it. Outside of that, this match was boring. The fans did not care whatsoever. They didn't. If you wanted this match, if you wanted this match, what you needed to do was either one of two things. Either have Roman face Dean Ambrose, who was going in as the champion, and if it was going to be Triple H versus Roman, and you knew the fans were not going to to let this slide, what you needed to do was added Dean Ambrose, kept Dean Ambrose in this feud, and made it a triple threat for that title. That probably would have been more interesting and more compelling, but this was not it. I really don't like this match. This was just god awful.
After Triple H took his WWE Championship at the Royal Rumble, Roman Reigns earned his rematch to close out the show of shows. Fans were sick to death of Reigns being shoved down their throats and were desperate for him to not dethrone the King of Kings. However, 2016 WWE did not care about what its fans wanted, and instead booked Reigns to beat the game after a 27-minute long snooze fest. Roman hit trips, trips hit Roman hit trips again, rinse and repeat for almost half an hour as the boos grew louder and louder. The sole highlight of the match was when Reigns accidentally speared Stephanie McMahon, but that aside, the live audience's complete rejection of Roman was more entertaining than the bout itself. I'd feel sorry for him, but he's doing alright for himself now, isn't he? Fans booed the
way much better.
The inevitable title win to Kingdom Come. Put simply, the match was everything a wrestler.
But yeah, man, that match didn't need to happen. If you wanted the fans to actually care about this match, you should have just gave Ambrose a bye and just added him into the feud and it made it a triple threat. There's been times where we've seen it happen before. It happened with Daniel Bryan 2 years prior. So it shouldn't be out of the question that Ambrose could have been added to this match. But that's the end of the video, you guys. Make sure you super kick that like button, Superman punch the post notification bell, and spear the subscribe button. It takes 3 seconds out of your day to do those 3 things for me. Comment down below, let me know what do you deem as worst match of 2016 in your opinion, if they were on this list, and why. And if they weren't on this list, let me know what you think was the worst WWE match of 2016. I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. Road to 350 subscribers, but the ultimate goal is 10K. When I do hit 10K, I will do a giveaway with one of my lucky subscribers. We'll have the opportunity to win a WWE Championship from WWE Shop. So if you want to be a part of that, go subscribe to the channel. It's absolutely free. You'd always change your mind in the future, but why would you want to do that? I'm trying to give you guys daily wrestling content. The grind does not stop. But I appreciate everybody who's been tuning in. I hope everybody has a great day, a great week, and I'll see you guys in the next video.